Start the words of prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And lead us not into temptation, but we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, hello. Christopher went to run a copy.
So recall the the agenda the meeting for Tuesday, November 1st order. 2022, November 1st, 2022, regular call meeting. Want to welcome our KJIW and the Helena-West Helena world, and any other media and any guests who joined us by Zoom. Ms. Ramsey, call the roll.
Davis, St. Columbia,
Present.
Crockett, Franklin, Etherly, Forward. Well, Mr. Franklin is here. He's just running a copy.
All right, so we're going to start with minutes. I think we have quite a few minutes to go over and approve. The first one is August the 16th. And Ms. Ramsey, if you don't mind, since we have so many, I'm just going to let you
You just call out the dates. I don't
go
have
through
anything to
all of
read
them.
from, so.
Or they were emailed out.
Yes, they
Okay.
in the packet also. Yes.
Okay, so August 16th,
Yes, so they've had
2022.
them.
You get a chance to look those over as emailed and in your packet.
Oh, that's okay.
Give you a minute to look over any questions or comments about the minutes of August 16th, 2022.
Can my motion do all of them, or do we have to do them individually?
To do them individually
Have to do them
for
individually.
the city attorney.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes of August 16th.
Mr. St. Columbia moves.
On minutes?
Mr. St. Columbia moves adoption of the minutes for August 16th. Is there a second?
He said third and final reading.
Mr. Franklin seconds the motion. Any questions or comments? If not, call the roll.
Forward. Yes. Davis.
Yes.
Franklin.
Yes.
St. Columbia.
Yes.
4 yes.
Motion passes. The next minute, September 1st, 2022, special call meeting for the person appropriating $5,000 stipend for police officers from the state of Arkansas.
I have a question about that. Has everybody received their $5,000 from the stipend?
As far as I know, yes.
I think one officer hadn't, Mrs. Mills. She, I was told that she hadn't received hers. That you were holding it or something, or she was here. And I think, I don't know the city attorney's out here, but I think, that's somebody's personal property. You may want to give that to her.
Any other questions about the minutes?
I'm not gonna approve it until it happens.
All right, so we don't have any. Nothing, when you weren't here, so we don't have enough to support, to pass the minutes
It won't
for
pass.
that September 1st meeting. Council meeting minutes for October the 4th, 2022.
So move.
Second. Mr. Franklin moves adoption of the minutes for October 4th. Second by Mr. St. Columbia. Any questions or comments about the minutes?
Call for the vote.
Okay, call the roll.
Franklin.
Yes.
Davis. Yes. Forward.
Yes.
St. Columbia.
Yes.
4 yes.
Minutes for October 4th passed. Minutes for October the 6th.
So move.
Mr. Franklin moves adoption. Is there a second? Second of the minutes for October 6, 2022, special call meeting.
That was to pay Jordan's fuel bills.
Second. Davis seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
4 yes.
Motion passes. Minutes for October the 11th.
Also move.
Second.
Mr. St. Columbia moves adoption. Mr. Franklin seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Franklin,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Motion passes. So. was that the last
October
one?
18th. this last.
October 18th.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Franklin moves adoption of the minutes for October 18th, 2022. Mr. St. Columbia seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
4 yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, here those. Thank you.
All right. So we have the treasury reports on the agenda, and I don't see the treasurer here, so we'll move on to the conflict ordinance. Mr. Valley's also not here to discuss the conflict ordinance, so we'll pass over these two items and go to the base pay ordinance amendment. Okay, the purpose of this, and Mr. Scroggins, you're welcome. I mean, you can be seated until you're asked to speak on it, but so Mr. Patterson is set to retire, and you can, sure. And so we are wanting to go ahead and advertise the position. The question before the council is whether we can amend the base pay ordinance to raise the base pay to what the current pay is, which is $17 an hour, so that we can, so we'll be more competitive, more successful in attracting candidates to meet the qualifications. And at the current base pay for that position, it's minimum wage at $11 an hour. It's not likely to attract certified personnel that we need for that position. Mr. Scroggins, you want to take it from there?
Arkansas Real Water and several other people on these positions. And with the day and times and the geographic area that we're in, as high as you can get is what they said. And most of them suggested $20 to $26 an hour starting wages. And I'd have to kind of agree upon that. But to even be able to track someone, a licensed person, knowledgeable to supervise as far as the water plants and the wastewater, that's what we're going to need. Someone's over the other operators. They're currently working on their license, but they still have to go to school and class and still have to pass the test and so forth. But to find someone that's already licensed, it's going to be difficult. It may be 2 months to attract an applicant.
What licenses are required for that position?
It's going to require at least a minimum of a class 2 water treatment, class 2 to 3 distribution, and a class 2 to 3 wastewater license. But a minimum would be a 2 in the water treatment and the wastewater.
So this is what they have to baseline. This is what they have to have coming in for this position. Or
The baseline pay is going to have to be raised. If I understand you, it's a little muffled, but you're not going to attract anyone I mean, I'm just gonna be quite frank with you. Even the local area with the retirees, you may get someone that's in this part of the country. I'm talking about within 60 miles or so, that's younger, that's that you could attract, or you may find that you may end up hiring someone that's already experienced and is retiring and willing to work. That's the real big question. I mean, they've got apprenticeship programs that's going on now, but those people are, the utilities hire them, they send them to school, and every month they go to school and they go to class and get hands-on. It's going to be real difficult for those people because you have to meet the requirements of the health department for the waivers, if high school or anything like that, criminal records, any of that. It's a strict requirement, and you have to get all that. But just trying to find someone would be difficult, I believe.
Mr. Stockton, what is your recommendation that we approve that job?
The base pay on that position ought to pay at least, to me, 18 to 18.50 an hour,
$18.50 an hour?
at least, yes.
That's your recommendation?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Strong, I due to the water department's finances right now, I don't think that we need to check the finance to see what are you all available to do. Because with the finances right now, I think that we may have to stay still for just a moment, because you all are still having a hard time with different things. Y'all finances probably wouldn't allow us to do much of any of that. From what I can see, I know you all have bills that are past due. You all are still delinquent on a lot of stuff, and I understand that you know somebody's going to retire. But I would suggest what you all should do, and I'm not trying to handle day-to-day operation. What would be good, as Ms. Holden said, would be feasible is to look with somebody within the department and see if they would like to move up or be bumped up. I don't think you hiring somebody and you all in a crisis where you're having trouble paying your bills, and you hadn't the sanitation department don't even receive their funds. And I think that's something you ought to look at as a department head on what you have internally and see would they like to move up. Because right now, from what I'm seeing, the city treasurer, he'll be in a minute, but y'all in a little financial trouble. I mean, and
Well, with all the work that the council's approved that we're getting, so we're reducing the operating costs just on the bypasses alone. But the issue is you don't have anyone licensed already here, because I've already discussed that with several of them, and trying to get trainees from maintenance over people that they've hired. I would like to do that.
And I understand your frustration, but also that this has been an ongoing problem for the water department. Before you got here, we have always said, Ms. Ford, Ms. Davis, Ms. Crockett has always asked why we're not training within the department so you can move up in case this happens. And here it is again. It comes when we had a guy named Jody. When Jody left, we asked them to start training people in that department to get them ready, because we need more than one person with a license. And even the maintenance guys. Have you all tried to figure out how you all train your people? Because like you just said, there's no one else. You got to go outside. But are we training? Are we promoting within? Are we trying to see if there's somebody in the water department? Would they like to be? Would they like to be?
We've addressed that. If you've got to understand, the people in the field, there's a license for them. And this past month and every month, they're going to get their hours. It may just be a district meeting. Next week, it's going to be in above Wynn there. I can't, Caldwell. But anybody that wants to go has already been told they're to go. Now, we have a few that's licensed, but you got a distribution license. Those people move up in the ranks as far as the maintenance people, so that they're able to do that. As far as the weight of the water, we only have one currently, and he's going this coming month to take the class and take the test. You have to do 3 months in advance now to get your paperwork in the health department to even get an operator in training. And that's the only closest class is rural water at Lone Oak. One has last year went to Monticello because you have to maintain your license. Any licensed person has to get that 24 hours a year. That's mandatory, water and wastewater. So it's pretty strict. I mean, yes, it's an incentive, and it's only an incentive for them to get it if you can give them an increase in pay each time they get one of those licenses. Of course, in the future, it would be you only have 6 months to get your license or a year. Most places require these licenses, but they're only going to give you so long to get them. And they're going to let you go to school. I mean, when they go to that class over there, you're paying for their transportation, their lodging, because they're minimum 3-day classes. Now, to maintain them, you can go to an 8-hour class, but the full classes, and there's different levels of those classes. Used to, you would do the old school, you just go A, B, C, and D, and then it went 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now you can actually take the minimum, which is a introductory class, then an intermediate, and then they have a further, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 class. And you really don't even want to try to take a class until you've been through at least the intermediate school and competent. It involves a lot. I mean, it's not just arithmetic and basic math. It's trigonometry. There's a lot more because everything is based on California test.
Will they be allowed to do like the current, well, will they allowed to be accept a waiver until they get their license? Can they be on one of those?
Of what now?
Like, it's the same thing as we had with the other water manager. Could it be like work on a waiver for this new position, this position you all talking about? Can they be on a waiver until they get?
Well, the ideal is here is to get the people that you've got trained and licensed, but you're going to have to hire someone that's already got the license to take over this position.
See,
because at the current time, you have no one.
right. See, but this current council had approved that when people get their license, they come back and let us know they got the license. It was like $1 or 75 cents or something we approved they get. So my thing is, I need to know where you all, you got other people at the table, but I didn't know how your finances is, because even though somebody's retired, but we're gonna get some more, we're gonna get some more money out. And y'all got bills here tonight that y'all looking for us to approve, right?
Yes.
So then
I've spoken with Mr. Turner and we discussed it in the mayor's office. He's looking at some, if I'm allowed to say it, we're looking at on CD rates, which we've got a pretty good rate, which will pay us considerably more. And I spoke with him before I come in here, but he's had a few days to look at that, and we've already called.
So maybe we should wait. Maybe we should get the Treasury report and see what he's talking about before we can approve this. Because I
Mr.
like.
Franklin, if I could.
We're
already paying,
but
I know,
I
I
wasn't
know.
finished. No,
I know, but
I
I'm-
was not finished.
I'm
I mean,
trying
No,
to.
I'm just saying that maybe you can
Ms.
wait.
Franklin, if you would suspend just a minute, I wanted to inform you that they are currently already paying the $18 rate an hour for that position. So it's not a new thing. It's unless we advertise for the existing base pay rate, which is $11. He's already currently making that in that position. So it's not additional money. We're already paying that.
Get their pay.
Right. And we just ain't gonna get
Well,
somebody walking in
I
for
don't know the
$18.
answer to that, except that what we need is someone who with the same similar credentials. And
But
in
the-
order to get that now, we would need to continue to pay the $18 rate, an hour rate, and to advertise. For tonight, what you're being asked to do by the water department is to advertise for Mr. Patterson's position, who has several credentials currently at $18 an hour, which it could be up to 20 something an hour to be competitive, but that's what he's getting now. And
Not
we've
only
already-
that, we
already
would probably
budgeted
we
for
would
that.
save even on overtime.
Well, there's also overtime, but he's budgeted for that position, for that salary rate now. So the position is already funded at that. And Ms. Crockett, I asked Mr. Franklin to suspend if he wants to continue or if he wants to
You know, when he retires, it goes back to $11. And we had budgeted, because once he retired, it's over with. It's $11. You said we're paying it, but hey, he has a license. You want to look, think of what it does to the morality of people that's working for the water department. Think about what you're doing. I mean, when is he set to retire?
The end
Or
of
the
this,
end of
end of this year.
Okay, then maybe the new administration, they should worry about that. If you look, mayor, whoever it is, they should worry about that. Right now, we need to make sure the water department is up, functioning, and running, and we ain't bleeding out because they started incurring bills every month. I can't wait till the city treasurer gets here to tell us what all that we owe and how much money we're bleeding out. We need to know the financial status of anything before I can make a move on anything, because for the city clerk, I'm pretty sure you got bills that you're struggling to pay, am I right? Thank you. So I think at some point we need to wait, because we're spending money that we don't really have. We have spent all the ARPA money that we got. So hey, I think we need to wait just a minute, just to see, because the water department is not, you all take it from the sanitation department, pay your bills. So that causes everybody to be in a strain.
I understand we're paying, right now, we're paying
Mr.
$18.
Cyclone,
Right now.
Well, I mean, there's nothing new, Brad.
if we both of you could suspend. If y'all could suspend right now, I'm gonna recognize Ms. Crockett, who had a question, and then Mr. St. Columbia will go back to you, and then Mr. Franklin. If you want to continue, but I would point noted, you're against the advertising for idea. Ms. Crockett. Miss, all right. Miss Crockett, you recognize.
My question is, I heard Mr. Scoggins said that nobody has the license that is required to fill this position. Do you have those licenses?
Yes, ma'am.
I've asked numerous times because, and this is just me. They keep saying that you have these licenses, but they're not on record with the state of Arkansas. I've asked 2 or 3 times if I could get a paper copy of them. Because if you already have those licenses, that's not going to put a strain on the water department, because you're there. That can, right now, we can, if you have the license to fulfill that, we need to try to get some people that's already in there. There's nobody in the department has those licenses, nobody.
We've got some distribution people that have a license.
No, I'm talking about the license that you are, that is required.
Other than myself,
Position.
no. And if
And
you
what
need,
kind of license you said they need?
we're gonna require a minimum class.
This is the requirement that you're putting on there. It's not state required.
It is for this size system. Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the question once again, because one of us, maybe I'm not saying it right, or maybe you're not understanding. The position that you're trying to get advertised, what are the requirements for that position by the state of Arkansas?
Minimum class 2 wastewater, minimum class 2 water treatment.
And nobody in the water department has that right now.
No, ma'am.
None of these people that you're sending to class are going, thank you, are going to class to try to obtain these licenses.
Just one operator trying to get there.
Okay, Mr. St. Columbia, you're recognized.
You can call 661-2623 and ask for the license division. If you have any questions on myself or anyone, they'll direct you to the person that can verify what I have.
What's their number again?
661-2623. That's 501. And then the ADEQ, I don't have their direct number, but you can call there and they'll send you over to the licensing division there. State of Arkansas.
Thank you.
Mr. St. Columbia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my understanding, Mr. Scroggins, that we are presently paying the $18.50 an hour.
I believe it's under 18, it's 17 and maybe 60 cents.
Just a few cents in or around the $18.50 that you're asking for.
Well,
Is that correct?
the present position is paying just under that.
So I mean, it's not a matter of new dollars that you're asking.
Right.
for. basically, but,
It's-
and for the betterment of this community.
Just clarify,
feel
excuse me,
that-
just a second, just to clarify, I'm sorry. $17.68 an hour is currently what that position pays. And with certifications and licenses he has, the question before you is whether or not to advertise at that rate or higher. Mr. Scroggins, I think, recommends a higher rate actually to get the qualified personnel that we're looking for. We don't have anybody in mind or anything like that, but to advertise for that pay, you will have to approve the advertisement here, and then eventually you'll have to approve an amendment to the base pay at the next meeting. But you do have to approve advertising it tonight if we're going to fill that position with an equally qualified person who holds it now. We're currently paying $17.68 an hour, and then time and a half for overtime. Mr. St. Clement, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify so everybody.
I would
is
agree.
on the same
I
page.
agree to that. Yes.
Working, and this person will work making the $17.68 until the first year. Am I correct?
Well, I can't tell you his exact retirement date. It's at the
He
end
just
of,
said the
it's
first
at,
of the
it's
year.
at to the, it's till the, no,
I mean,
it's-
at the end of the year.
that's right.
end
At
of
the end of the
okay.
year, could be a week or two before January 1st. It depends on.
Okay,
his-
to the end of
It
the year.
depends on his particular retirement date, which, goes into a lot of things.
So we're gonna pay him until the end of the year, making this same salary.
Yes, I still have the floor. Mr.
Yes,
Mayor?
sir.
Okay.
Sorry.
If what my thinking is, Mr. Scroggins, that for the best interest of this community, what you're asking for is that we immediately advertise for that position, someone for that position. Am I correct about that?
Yes, sir.
That's what you're asking for.
Yes, sir.
And it's not a matter of new money that we're basically
No, sir.
increasing. So I think we need to move along. We don't need to wait to try to employ someone for that position. And if we have somebody in our ranks within our city, present employee that wants to go to school for those things, you're for that, aren't you, Mr.
Of course.
Scroggins? But it would take a long time to acquire those licenses. Is that what I understand?
Yes, sir.
And expenses of that person going to class and we paying for him going to those classes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for the best interest of this community, you're asking that we immediately advertise for that position. Am I correct about that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Mrs. Crockett.
Okay, when are you planning for this? I don't know if it was just pushed over what Ms. Davis just said. When, if you advertise for this position, when do you expect to have someone hired? Because like we already said, the water department is bleeding. And if you hire somebody in the next 3 weeks, that means that we're gonna have 2 people on payroll from now to the end of the year that's making $17.68 an hour or more.
Well,
So-
what you got to take in consideration is the person that's retiring is going to have leave time and vacation time that he's going to take. And probably the 15th of December, he will probably be out for quite some time, even until he retires. It could be possibly sooner, but you could issue a start date, but I anticipate it's going to take a minimum of 30 days to get in qualified applicants.
Ms. Crockett has the floor. Mr. Valley.
There are 3 practical issues I think that you all have to look at within this. Mr. Scroggins just raised one of the points that I was about to raise. You are talking about advertising for a position. I think that you should advertise for a position, establish a range of pay, and then change the base pay. The other issue, the issue that you have is this advertisement is one thing. Until you change the base pay, the advertisement is meaningless. As it relates to the other, base pay only addresses one position. At some point, what Mr. Scroggins just raised was a fine detail that at some point there'll probably be some overlap. And so you'll have to look at that too, because there's only one position in the base pay. And you'd have to create the position first for a temporary basis or something in order to have this overlap. And so when you are looking at it, you have to look at all the issues. To address what Mr. St. Columbia is saying, the employee is currently making $17 and some change per hour. And so when you say there's no net budget change, that's on a temporary basis, because if you brought it to that, then that's correct. But when the council's budgeting, you must just realize there's going to be some overlap. Because of what Scroggins has just said is that the employee will be retiring, so it'll be taking vacation days, sick days, and all those things, because you don't use them, you lose them. There's no special statute for employees relating to that. And so you will have a time period where you will be paying both of those salaries at the same time for some part of December if you get qualified candidates. So as you consider this, also consider, Ms. Ramsey, I wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting, but Ms. Ramsey informed me that Rural Water informed Mr. Scroggins that it should be $26 an hour versus what you all are advertising, what he's asking initially. So I think you all have to consider all of that as part of your discussions, because part of the issue that I would see is a Pyrrhic issue. If we go through the process and we just say, hey, we're gonna do 17 hours, you don't get any employees, then you're back at square one. I think all of what you all said is very important. Mr. Franklin, addressing your issue, I believe that you're correct as well, that you need to know the finances, see whether the city can afford that. But I think as a threshold, you have to look at the advertisement. But if you don't intend to go forward with the other part, then the advertisement is meaningless. That's what I'm saying by period. Period is just a victory for the mayor, and it has no meaning. It's just pointless. You have your publication, but you don't have any finance. And so as city attorney, the thing that I would say, if you're considering advertisement, I think you can't separate the two. You have to go ahead and decide what the pay is going to be and whether you're legitimately going to give that pay, because it's a waste of Muscog's time, the mayor time, and the city's time to advertise if you're not going to give the funds requisite to make the hire.
I just to clarify, I was repeating what you told me. We can't amend the base pay tonight without an ordinance, but you can approve the advertisement so that it could go forward. But obviously, if you don't want to amend the base pay ordinance at all, then we don't need to advertise it. So just to echo what you said, we don't need to approve the advertisement if we're not going to approve the amended base pay. We're paying that now. And I'm going to point out, not long after I was elected, we talked a lot about overtime issues. One way we resolved that in the fire department was to give promotions and give people raises. And now we've gotten overtime under control. We are spending that money on overtime in the water department, in part because we don't do the salary raises. And one reason we lost Jody is because we didn't give him the raise that he felt he was due. And so in my humble opinion, it actually saves money to improve the salaries. And that suggestion was to turn down early, not long after I became mayor, when the water department presented it as a structuring plan to avoid overtime costs. It worked in the fire department. It works mostly in the police department since we've done promotions there, and it will work in the water department. But if we continue to pay minimum wage for positions that qualify, that need people like Jody's qualifications, for example, or Mr. Patterson's, we're not going to attract that kind of talent, and we're still going to pay the salary and overtime. We just won't have the qualified individuals and the certified individuals that we need to make sure our water and sewer services are up to state and federal standards for our customers who drink water and use sewer. So it's extremely important question. City Council is the governing board of the water and sewer utility company. It's probably the most important, or possibly the most important thing you do. And I would strongly suggest you take politics and elections out of it and think about the fact that you all drink water, and it's extremely important. And we already spend that much in overtime. This is a decision for us as users and as a utility company, not just as politicians. Mr. St. Columbia.
Mr. City Attorney, I'd like to address this question to you. You got to put things in priority. And of course, the first step we need to take, if I understand from what you were saying, we need to change the basic rate first. if we're gonna advertise,
Well,
We-
I-
we,
go ahead and ask your question.
we have to do that first and then approve, advertising.
Well, what I advise the mayor.
In those steps is
The
what.
mayor leaned over to me, and asked me, can we do this tonight? First thing I said, you can approve the advertisement tonight, but if you're gonna approve it, that has to be consistent on the council. You're gonna come back and change the base pay later, just because as a practical matter. I think your base pay, last I looked at, I think it's $13 hours, it's something, it's something,
It's 11.
it's $11.
See, that's
Minimum.
way too low.
Right, well. Well, yeah, the issue is because the position that you have is I'm trying to think of the name of the position, but the position is second in charge. And it's one of those things that the base pay, as you all are well aware, the listening public may not be aware, the base pay is the starting salary for any person that takes a position with the city. And so that has not been reviewed since I think the last person that gave you an increase to base pay or suggested it was I can't think of his name at this point. It may have been during the Willis administration, because I don't remember base pay coming for water since way back. I don't think it's coming back since 2015. But to answer your question,
It was proposed, it just was rejected by the city
No,
council.
was it?
It was proposed, this was.
Or was it?
Yes, it was. That's just not true. That's not accurate. You voted against it,
No, we didn't.
but it's been
because
proposed many
My
times.
hand was up for a question.
Mr. St. Columbia was actually asking Mr. Valley a question.
The $11 is what it is now, and it needs to be higher than that.
certainly it needs to be higher than this.
Huh?
Certainly it needs to be higher than that.
And I think everybody else agrees. They're paying $15 out there to flip hamburgers. And this position requires talent and education and knowledge. And it requires a lot more than just minimum wage. So I think we need to go to the, at least to what we're paying right now, the 17, some dollars.
Right. Well, I agree with both of you, both Mr. Franklin and Mr. St. Columbia. You all are right in your assessments. Mr. Franklin has hesitant because he wants to see the finance. Here's the thing that I've suggested to every water utility manager since we've had him, and to each department head, for us to make changes to base pay. We need to look at more modern salaries for the water utility. But we also, and within the base pay, what I've asked all department heads, I haven't met with Mr. Scroggins about it, but I've met with his predecessors about tying pay raises to licensure. And we've discussed that here openly in this meeting. And when we do that, you would automatically raise people's salaries and without having to come for the council, because you already have the license that's connected to it. Now, as a practical matter, before you advertise, you got to know what the salary is. And so that's one of the things, after you hear what the treasurer had to say about it, and the mayor or the city clerk about the finances, you need to know, because Mr. Scroggins came in initially was asking for $17 or $18 an hour, but after you talked to rural water, he said 26. And if 26 is the rate, then that's one thing that council need to take a serious look at. If that's what rural water is saying, is that we're saying if you're going to get the people with the actual credentials. But you're all in charge of finance. Yes, ma'am. You asked me a question.
Range of pay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we could start anywhere from 17 to 26. I mean, I think it would improve the quality of the applicant pool. And you may get, he's requiring class 2 wastewater, solid waste. You may get someone with licenses above that. And
Correct.
you have that.
Correct.
Right.
You have that range.
Well, go ahead.
But you just wouldn't say, well, everybody comes to,
Right.
apply maybe the $26 or whatever. And then I was wanting to ask about the man that's leaving, he's leaving by the end of the year. Could this prospective person that's hired not be hired until the first of the year? I mean, you can interview and have that out of the way.
Yes, you all can do that. You all
So
are
there
charged.
would be the overlap.
You all are charged with finances. there will be overlap. But Mr. Scroggins is saying, from a practical standpoint, while you all could do that from probably December 15th until December 31st, he's gonna need an employee. And the current person will probably be taking vacation and sick leave during that time period.
But he's
That's-
taking vacation anyway.
Yes, ma'am,
So
but I'm
who
saying,
has he been using?
I don't know, but I'm saying the practical issue, and Mr. Scroggins is saying he probably would need the person before the beginning of the year is what he's saying. I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but I think what he said. Now, the other things to address other points you made. Mr. Franklin has talked to me several times in my office about trying to modernize the base pay. And his suggestion was that we look at not just a strict number, but start looking at some ranges for us, the salaries, so that mayors can have some latitude relating to it. Mayor Smith has also suggested that before, and Ms. Turner and I have suggested that, but we haven't came to this point. And so, but the point that you all have to do right now to get this going, you all have to decide what you're going to advertise the salary for, and go from there. Then have some firm commitment that you're going to update the base pay based on that advertising.
The only thing I would add to that tonight is that city council is the governing board for the water and sewer company. Mr. Scroggins is your general manager. Mr. Scroggins has the state licenses, experience, the background to make a recommendation. He also knows what the state of the finances are at the water department. He is recommending that you move forward and advertise that no lower than the current rate that's actually being paid, so that there will be somebody in place before the end of the year. That's his recommendation. The question before you is, do you want to do that? Both advertising, because if we do, then that needs to go ahead and be advertised. And in fact, which means amending the base pay. Did I state that correctly?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman? So the question is, do you accept or not accept the general manager's recommendation? What's in the best interest of the water and sewer utility? I think, in my personal opinion, I accept his recommendation because he knows more about this. He's more qualified than I am. And I'm concerned about the water and sewer utility company and for our customers' sake. And I take his advice very seriously. And election year or not, new administration or whatever, it doesn't really matter. You have a water and sewer utility company that's going to continue. And the recommendation by the general manager is for you to advertise the position at the current rate, to move forward to that if we can, and come back to the next meeting with a base pay ordinance to reflect that, or at least, or more. And that is the question for the committee. Mr. St. Columbia, you had the floor, I believe. Or no, I'm sorry. Ms. Ford had the floor. I'm sorry. I believe it's you were asking, and Mr. Valley was also addressing the body, but Ms. Ford's finished. You finished, Mr. Valley?
Yes, I was addressing her question.
I'm so glad to hear you say you finally accept someone's recommendation, because maybe if you had accepted what Mr. Benzine Colley was asking you to do, we wouldn't have spent $800,000 on pumps. We could have had this issue fixed. Is election year or not, that's nobody's concern. The concerns right now is we could have budget workshops to get him where he needs to be. But right now we need to understand what the finances are, because he got bills on the table tonight. You also talk about a CD, or he said something about a CD. This person is not, you don't even know if this person is gonna retire. It's said that this person is gonna retire. You don't know the person got the, do you have
He
a
said
sign?
he's gonna
Oh,
retire.
let me finish.
Okay.
I can say I'm gonna retire, but doesn't mean you got the right to change your mind. It's not an argumental question about this. My thing is that you all spent $800,000 on pumps that we'll never own. Here we are now. You need somebody. You have the licenses that it takes, so we're not really losing anybody. You're the general manager. When a person is not, when you don't have a person in place, that's where you come in at. That's why we pay you the $62,000 or a little bit more. We pay you to jump in the trenches and do the job. That's what this is about. Now we should be trying to figure this part out now. How do we have the finances to do this? Because yes, you say it's money you already spending, but now you're asking for a little bit more. I'm not meaning to get loud with anybody, but it bothers me when it's like we're being threatened. This is what you need to do now. You have the licenses to do the job. That's what you're here for. You're a general manager. You fill in when somebody else is out. That's how this works. So my thing is now, we need to find out what is the finances. I will be happy to help you, Mr. Struggle, but I cannot help anybody at this point. We just spent $800,000 on pumps and we owe more money, right, Ms. Ramsey? We got some bills. Zolom sent y'all some bills the other day that this body don't know nothing about. So let us find out what you all have, because you all can't even make your own payroll because you're taking from the sanitation department to make your payroll. That's overtime, that's gas. This body has been more than generous, gave $800,000 to y'all, then turned around gave another $120,000, then turned around gave another $100,000 for gas and all this other stuff. So I'm not arguing. What you should be trying to do is figure out your finances so we won't cripple the water department even more. Let's figure out the finance. Yeah, you say you're getting pumps fixed. Okay, we hadn't got all of them fixed, so we're still bleeding out. Let's figure out the financial plan. Mr. Patterson, not retiring, no time soon, not today, not tomorrow. But I think you also had a plan on your finances. Because the sanitation department is going to need their money, and you all are way in debt with the sanitation department. Ms. St. Columbia, if you want to take a break and go outside. But I really do believe that we're in a the water department is in a financial crisis. That's my only reason.
I can agree that they're in a financial crisis, but also I've asked the office manager who is supposed to keep up with it, inform me to be here at these meetings more than once, at least 2 or 3 times, and they've yet to show up. So I've only been here 2 months. I'm only trying to catch up, but I can go back in history and tell you that at one time there was a surplus. And the whole issue that I have seen throughout the history for 10, 15 years is there's no follow through that's going on. You don't have anybody in place in this department that can carry those through and sit here and tell you, advise you that what you need to do. And if you don't do it, it's going to cost you this. I agree with what you're saying, but I didn't create this. Someone else did, not even this administration probably, but it goes back a long time. So it's come to an end where your car is going to quit rolling.
Well, I understand, but watch this. Before you got here, we paid a consultant, Jack Ross. He gave the same recommendation. This council has been very well good. We follow every recommendation.
I'm working with the city treasurer right now with that department. He's getting access to that computer as far as I'm understanding.
And that's fine, but
and he can probably help us more than anything at this time.
It's fine, Mr. Strong, but when you saying that it goes back, we didn't have a water manager for almost 2 years. That does not fall on this body. It falls on the mayor because we had a general water manager who the mayor didn't see eye to eye. He fired him, got a guy that didn't have his license. So the body didn't put us in this situation because we only handle what comes across these tables. The mayor decided, that's another story. All I'm asking is, let us get your finances together, see what we can afford to do. We can have a workshop. I'll be happy to meet with you all because we need to move on, but I'll be happy to have a workshop or do whatever, Mr. Turner, by the next week because he's not gonna retire. I like to meet, we can meet this week and we can have a special meeting on Thursday or Friday, but we need to check the finances before to see what we can do. And I understand you may need somebody, but let's see where our money is right now.
Well, you're not gonna be paying any more out now that
you ain't gonna hire anybody.
than you already are.
You ain't gonna, but you're not gonna hire anybody till the next couple of weeks. So it doesn't hurt if we work and we can get something done in the next 2 weeks. You just sprung this on us tonight. Y'all been saying he was gonna retire. If he's gonna retire. Why you spring this on us tonight with all this right here? Why can't it'd be fair to us to say, hey, let me give y'all, let y'all see what y'all can work on about the finances. We are in a crunch with finances. That's all I'm saying. Finances.
Mr. St. Columbia is next, and then Ms. Crockett, and then we need to wrap this up. We're not going to do it. Go forward. Mr. St. Columbia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to have the same amount of time that my colleague over here has taken, 30, 40 minutes at least. But I'm not going to take that time and waste. We need to take action. We need to do things for this community for the welfare of its people. Our water company is in trouble and we need to help them. And I think we're already paying this money. He knows a man's going to retire. He's told you he was gonna retire. Am I right, Mr.
Yes,
Scroggins?
sir.
And you can get up and walk out if you want to,
Last time I checked out his phone.
but, oh, you gotta have candy to talk with. But, you know, the thing that we need to do is think about the community, our water system. People, the water that we produce that goes inside the bodies of every person in this community. And it's got to be taken care of by intelligent people, people that know what they're doing. And people that are trained and educated in the facilities necessary to qualify the water for our community. So we need to, if our manager tells us we need to hire someone and our attorney tells us that we need to change our hourly current rate, we need to move forward. We don't need to wait and wait and wait. That's a problem. We can't kick this can down the road anymore. It needs to be taken care of. The system goes back many years. It's not necessarily your fault or our fault or his fault, but quit passing the buck around. We need to take action and do what's necessary to promote the welfare of this community. And if Mr. Scroggins recommends it, and we've hired him to make these recommendations. Our city attorney advises us that we need to move in that direction and advertise a qualified person. I think we need to take those directions and move forward to it. Kicking this can down the road is not going to save the community. So I'd like to make a recommendation that we increase that we do the advertising and increase our base budget.
Ms. Crockett, just,
Something to say.
Ms. Crockett, I told you were there, so you.
Okay,
done.
but he trying to make
Ms.
a motion.
Crockett, just
Thank you.
please,
Yeah,
what,
no,
please, just
Yeah,
wait.
so slip it in.
You're next. I told you you were next. Are you through, Mr. Franklin? Ms. Crockett, you recommend?
No, he was trying to make a make.
No,
a
he said a
motion.
recommendation, not a
Okay,
motion.
this is what I want. This
Ms.
is all I
Crockett.
want to say. How do we advertise for a position when we don't have anything in writing? Mr. Patterson might wake up on December the 15th and say, I'm gonna stay 20 more years. If you don't have it in writing, how do you advertise for a position? I can tell you all day, and I know this because I got people that work around me daily that say they leaving this day, and 2 months later, they still there. So until we get that in writing, this shouldn't even be a discussion.
All right, so I take it you.
No,
Judge-
don't say that. I take it that I don't want to advertise the position. We
Yeah,
actually
tonight,
don't have a
Ms.
position
Crockett,
to advertise until we get it in writing that
Ms.
Mr. Jeff
Crockett.
Patterson said that he is leaving this, retiring
Ms.
from the
Crockett.
city up. Let me finish my statement, please, Mr. Mayor. Until Mr. Jeff Patterson puts it in writing that he is leaving, retiring from the city. These are dates that I'm using. He has not said anything to me about it. December the 15th, we actually don't have a position to advertise.
Ms. Crockett, no, Mr. Valley, just suspend a minute. Ms. Crockett, your position is until,
Now, don't ask me about. my
I'm
position.
asking,
No,
I'm
don't ask me
asking
nothing.
you to
Don't
clarify.
ask me nothing.
Ms. Crockett, I'm asking you to clarify your position. Your position is until we know when Mr. Patterson retires, you don't want to move forward on the
No, I
position.
did not say that. I said until we have something in writing saying that he's leaving the position, we don't have a position to advertise. Now get the opinion from the city
So-
attorney.
So I'm going to call the question because we've got to move on. And Mr.
Mr. Ballard was trying to say
Scroggins is
Mr.
asked,
Sadler was trying to say something.
Mr. Scroggins is asking us if we would advertise a position and then follow that with a base pay amendment at a future meeting to be decided so that they can be prepared when Mr. Patterson does retire. So that's the question for the body. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Mr. Sank,
If we take the advice of the director of the water company and accept his recommendation, I so move.
Mr. St. Columbia moves, we approve the recommendation of the water manager, Mr. Scroggins, to advertise the position is currently held by Mr. Patterson, who is planning on retirement before the end of the year at the rate of Mr. Patterson's current salary of $17.68 an hour. Is there a second? Okay, motion dies for lack of a second. We move on and go back up. Well, before we do that, this will be easy to dispense with this. Thank you very much, Mr. Scroggins. You can stick around in case we have questions about the water, some of the bills and that sort of thing, but I don't think we have anything on that issue.
Well, I would just like to
So,
say
Ms.
this.
Crockett, you're not recognized.
You
We
like
have,
Eagle.
Ms.
I would
Crockett,
like to say
Ms.
this, the
Crockett,
mayor is
Ms.
constantly trying to
Crockett,
make it seem like
we have business
we
to
are
take care of.
not willing to cooperate with you, Mr. Scoggins.
Ms.
but
Ms. Crockett,
Mr. Valley, if we do not have something in writing.
Ms.
that Mr.
Crockett,
Patterson
Ms.
is
Crockett, you're not
planning on
recognized.
retiring, do we have a
Ms. Crockett.
position to advertise?
We have already,
No, we have
Tell-
not. No, we have not. We have not cleared that up. We
Mr.
have
Valley
not-
also recommended that we advertise it.
No,
If-
that was
if-
before he
if-
realized what I just said.
If the council wants to do it, move forward.
No, I'm not.
But clearly you do not. So
I
now,
don't
we're-
want to advertise a position that we don't have to advertise.
Right.
That's why I'm not voting on it. Now, you
Ms.
can
Crockett.
make it seem like people are trying to go against Mr. Scoggins, but we don't have a position to advertise because Mr. Patterson has not put it in writing that he is retiring. He can wake up the day that y'all think he retired and say he ain't going nowhere. Then we got two people in that position already. No, sir. Don't try to make it seem like we just going against Mr. Scoggins. I want good water because I want to live, but I want the city to prosper. We don't need all of that. Where you sit up there every time somebody says something, say that it's because it's an election year. You're the only one at this table that brings that up. I'm talking to you, Mr. Mayor. But until you can prove that Mr. Patterson is leaving, you don't have a position to advertise.
The man's done
Miss-
said
Miss-
he's gonna-
Miss-
He
Miss-
said it.
Yeah,
I
but-
can say anything. I
Please,
can say I can find
please.
anything, but I can't.
Ms. Crockett. you-
Until he
so,
gets in
Ms.
writing,
Crockett,
it's not
you-
official.
You can make it contingent upon Mr. Patterson setting a retirement date if you choose to, but you don't have to. The only point I'm making is the general manager made that recommendation. There is not, will of the body is, the will of the body is not to adopt. Ms. Crockett,
That he plans to retire, we can bring this back to the table and I'll be the first one to vote.
Ms. Crockett, the
okay,
motion was when he retired to advertise.
Okay, he has not retired, so why are you asking us to make it, let you advertise it now? Make it make sense.
we've already moved on
It
and,
did.
and the next, no, Mr. Valley, we've got to move on. The
No,
issue,
no,
you-
sir, you
this-
tell me
Miss
what-
Ms. Crockett, stop
Like,
trying to
it's
control the
wrong.
meeting. We've
You're
got,
trying to control it. You don't
we've
even
got,
have to be
we've
here.
already dispensed with that item of
No, we
business.
haven't.
Yes,
No,
we
we
have.
haven't.
The code enforcement update is the next item on the agenda, and then we'll move back up to the treasury report and then back down to the invoices. Now, Ms. Keisha Williams, as is our code enforcement officer, informed us that she is sick today with the flu, cannot be here tonight. She has been without a computer, that working computer. We got that fixed this week, which will allow her to generate the printed documents for your updates. I hope at the next meeting. Also, we've advertised another code position as of today. And so that went out, and we encourage you, if you know anybody's interested, to have them apply. Other than that, I don't have an update since Ms. Williams is not here to give it. So we'll move to Mr. Turner for the treasurer's report, and we'll go back down, and then I'll introduce Mr. Valley for the rest.
So the treasurer report I'm giving you is for 30th of this year. And so through September 30th of this year, we had $126,874 in the general fund. We had a fund balance of $1.5 million, but of that $1.5 million, $1.7 million was actually payroll that we owed each other. Owed ourselves. Like I told you before, the general fund pays the payroll for the street and the landfill, but it's budgeted in each one of those funds. And so we had to set up to where they would reimburse the general fund, but they haven't been able to. If you can look at the end of your treasurer's report, and you can see in my supplemental information, you can see that the street fund and the landfill fund are both over budget right now. So it kind of makes it hard for them to reimburse us for payroll. And excuse me, considering the budget for 2022 and 2021. The 2022 budget was almost $500,000 more than the 2021 budget. But through September, we spent about $800,000 more than we did in 2021. And so considering that we pay the street fund and the landfill funds salaries and the benefits, we're about a little over $500,000 over budget right now through 3 quarters of the year. And so that kind of, like I said before, that kind of puts a little strain on us paying our bills on time. However, we are current on our IRS and Arkansas withholding taxes, but we owe the IRS $28,000. It's due tomorrow, but it's for the past payroll. So we are current, and we owe a little over $12,000 in Arkansas withholdings. But we're also current on that also, but that's due on the 15th of this month. So like I said, right now we're kind of behind on in the budget. We're about $500,000 behind in the budget right now. And I kind of expect it to carry over into next year unless we kind of slow down a little bit on the spending. And so that's where we sit right now, as far as finances are concerned.
Questions for Mr. Turner?
Yeah.
Mr. Turner.
Yes, sir.
I guess, this is tourism and advertising, right, on the.
Yes.
So financially, where do we stand? Where do we stand with our finances?
Like I said, right now, we're about through taking it to, if you take 75% of the budget, we're 75% through the year right now.
All right.
So, and like I said, we pay street funds and the landfills payroll. So if you take that into consideration, we're about $5.5 million over budget right now.
How much?
5.5 million.
Over budget?
Yeah.
Say it a little louder for me. I couldn't.
We're
really hear.
we're $544,000 over budget.
$544,000.
Yeah. Taking, and taking 75% of the budget.
100%. I mean,
No, through
Right.
September, if you take the budget through September, we would be $500,000 over budget.
so my question is.
And so that kind of makes it hard for us to pay bills.
So is it also that, these other small expenditures that we have occurring, because we should be worried about the local people getting paid, but if we $544,000 over budget, that means we've been doing some spending on these small contracts like 5,000, 6,000 here, that we can't pay our bills because people are just happy to write a check, and you all have to find the money. That has put this city in a downward spin. What is also that, can you help, just because I'm trying to figure, the city council doesn't write checks, do we?
No.
The city council don't go out and create bills, do we?
No,
So only people who create bills are who?
the mayor.
Thank you. So I got the floor. So it's not.
Well, that's an inaccurate statement.
it's
This,
not-
the administration,
city council does not.
the
spend money.
departments create the bills.
Okay, that's fine. But the city council,
Mr. Valley, who has exclusive responsibility for purchases?
Arkansas Code Annotated Section 1458-303 says the mayor has exclusive right to make all purchases. The administration would be including the department heads and et cetera. They're authorized under our local ordinance to do purchase order, but all expenditures come through the department heads and through the mayor's office. All are our day-to-day functions.
So, Mr. Franklin, like I was saying, we have dedicated ourselves to paying the payroll taxes first. We make sure we pay those items first. And Ms. Ramsey she does the best to pay the bills that are most, she tries to prioritize the bills. We don't want the lights to get cut off.
Okay.
We want to make payroll. And so, like I said, we pay payroll taxes first. We pay bills that she's getting bugged about. And we kind of like said, like I told you a couple of council meetings ago, we just tell everybody else to get in line.
Okay, so Mr. Treasurer, so is it harder is it really hard for y'all to pay bills because you all have so many other bills that you have to pay that vendors come in or people do work and they want to get paid, you all have to push the bills back to pay the vendors?
Yeah, I mean, you have to ask Ms. Ramsey about that. She's the one who actually writes the check. So she's the one who gets the phone calls and so when are we going to pay? When are you going to have the money? And so she gets those calls.
So can Ms. Ramsey, is it harder? We got these checks for 5,000. I see a lot of checks that come. I get a lot of checks that come through and say that you have to push aside. You have to pay those because, and they're making it hard for you to pay the bills, right? Lights, gas, because you have people in the city need to get paid, but you can't pay other bills that created because you got these smaller checks for filling potholes or cutting down this or doing that.
Is there anytime that a bill comes up that has to be paid or needs to be paid right away, something has to step aside? As I told you in the memo I put in your packets, when we got our sales tax in the 25th of October, I listed for you everything that would need to be paid, such as pension, retirements, health insurance, taxes, and all that. Out of the money we got in, I had about $30,000 left to pay bills. Is all we had left out of the county, the 2 county sales taxes and the city sales tax. You just kind of have to, if an emergency comes up, you make it work the best that you can.
But you all are being put in a strain.
We're in a strain trying to pay things. Yeah.
Right. And so it's not the city council because we don't create bills. It comes from the head of the table who creates bills. And I just want for the record, people to see that the city council, we do our jobs. Am I right, Mr. Valley? By February 1st, this body has to approve a budget, right?
Yes, by February 1st,
So-
on or before February 1st
Right.
each year.
So
February 1st of each year.
right.
on or before.
So when the city council, when they pass a budget, they have done 75% of their job because we have to pass a budget. And then whatever else comes across the table, we don't create bills. We don't do anything but approve, appropriate and approve. Am I correct?
City council finance, primary job is finances and real estate.
Right. So, Mr. Turner, we're in a financial bind with the water department and a lot of other things because these pumps, ring of the pumps, things happen. I understand, but I just don't understand how that, we got all this, we got $2 million for ARPA money, and here we are. Do we have any left? Because 85% of it went to who?
We have, let me look at the.
Because that's what I was trying to find here.
So you look on page 47, and this is through
Yes, sir.
September.
40.
We had $110,000 in American Rescue Act.
Okay. 100. Is the
And
100?
I don't think we've written any checks since then. Right? Yeah, so it's about it's $110,000 left at the end of September.
left. So we hadn't got anything from,
Most of the problems in the water department, like I said, the audit has been completed. It's not been finalized. We haven't received a final audit. But in 2021, I spoke with the auditor, most of the problems were with overtime and a lot of increase in repair costs. And I believe the expenditures from Xylem are included in those repair costs. I think she includes those in.
and another thing, the financial issue, do we have the water department gave you or Ms. Ramsey anything that they know how much we owe Xylem now? I've seen some bills that came in for Xylem. I wasn't my place, but I saw some bills that we gonna owe them a nice piece of change again.
I haven't seen it. I mean, my understanding was that I thought when we paid the 300,000, I thought that that was my understanding.
But we still, that's been how many, about a month ago, a month and a half ago, we still renting the pumps. So that bill is gonna total up because we have not bought any pumps. We've been renting pumps. But if we had a general, no, I'm not gonna go there. Let's stay on task. But we need to know how much money we owe Xylem because we're gonna get hit again, Ms. Davis, like we were hit before. We didn't know we owe $380,000, but we were hit. So we need, this body has to figure out what are we gonna do if we hit with another one of those $300,000 crisis because we can't afford it. But if we paying these odds and end people that we can't even, we took care of Xylem like Xylem was an employee.
And we can find out. I mean, I can
Right.
get you the information.
I just think, and Mr. I appreciate you for you working hard on a financial report, but I just wish that we could, the citizens need to see what's going on because we at the table, I don't spend any money. I appropriate whatever the mayor, and the mayor is doing such a great job because whatever this body asks for, we give it to them, regardless how it looks on social media. Ms. Crockett, Ms. Ford, Ms. Davis, Mr. St. Columbia, Mr. Etherly, anything that the mayor has asked for, this body approved it. We appropriated. Even he was so good about it when we unappropriated, he still bought the excavator, and we still. Where are we on that with the body with that? Have we made any more payments to the excavator?
I believe we've made monthly payments since, well, the mayor's made monthly payments.
So how much have we spent on that? And that's not been, and see, we didn't approve that. That's a part of finances. That's the thing it puts the citizen in a strain when you have other people using city equipment to do work and we have to pay. They're not on our insurance. It's a lot of things that we need to talk about at this table. And I would like for us to meet again, if possible, throughout the year until the new council and the new administration, whoever that may be, comes in. We need to get a hold on finance to hand off or to let this body, whoever's here, continue to handle the business. But we need to have some kind of form of structure on which way you all are going. Because at this point, Xylem, when you open them bills from Xylem, it's going to be a shocker because we've gotten it for the past 6 months. So, Mr. Trey, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much. Ms. Davis got a question.
Couple of things, and I'll, Ms. Davis. The PO book is how purchases are made, purchase orders. Mr. Turner got a raise a few years ago, and part of his increased duties, as requested by the council, was to be the PO clerk. So, while I appreciate that we're a week away from election, and I appreciate very much the orchestrated effort tonight. The truth is, when I became mayor, you were $700,000 in debt, $3 million in unsecured debt, which is unconstitutional. You had $1 million in debt at the water company. And 2018 was the first year that the state gave us a warning and I worked very hard to get this. 4 years later, Mr. Franklin, you just tell Mr. St. Columbia to shut up.
Did you hear me tell him to shut up?
Yes, I did.
Well, then you need to get your ears checked.
Did you say that?
No, I didn't.
Why did you apologize?
I ain't apologize to nobody. You got me messed
Look,
up.
this is
Somebody, you know what? You should apologize to these citizens.
Listen,
You should apologize to these citizens. Hold on. You should apologize to these citizens how you bankrupt this city. Look at the police department.
Ms. Franklin,
I don't care about an election at this point. Look at how you bankrupt this city. You spent $800,000 on ransom pumps that these folks would never own. You have destroyed, single-handed destroyed this city. You have no structure in your police department. You have no structure in your code enforcement. You got code enforcement that we ain't tore down a house since John went to the army. Look at your finances. You have a treasurer who's telling you that we can't do something. You do it anyway. You have a city clerk who is tired of fighting off vendors. You know what? You and Mr. St. Columbia, y'all do it so well. Or trying to protect each other. I have no invested interest in none of this stuff, but I want to see the city better.
Are you saying
I'm
that
not going to get out of
Franklin?
What?
Are you saying that you didn't tell Mr. St. Columbia to shut up just now?
You ought to be quiet.
I'm asking you a question because it's
hold on. Did you answer? Hold on, Ms. Crockett. Did you ask Mr. St. Columbia when he made the statement? Is that what you get when you put monkeys in charge of running the zoo? Did you ask him that? That's what I thought. So don't question me when you didn't question him about putting monkeys in charge of running the zoo.
Did you tell him to shut up?
Did you tell another city council arrested for what? What were you stealing water from the water company? You were
Okay,
convicted,
convicted where?
you were convicted
where?
of stealing water from the
Okay,
people of
Well,
this
guess what?
community.
Guess what?
Come
Guess what?
on now,
Show
tell
it,
me about
show it,
all
Show it.
what
show it,
you
show
did
me.
and all
Okay,
the
and how much have
convictions
you
you've
stole
had.
since
You
been
were
here?
arrested,
Where?
you
Show
were
me.
arrested several
Where?
times,
Guess what?
handcuffed,
Okay, where?
arrested and put in
Okay.
jail
That's all you got.
out here.
But I
And then you got your mouth moving all the time. No mofo. I'm so glad you're not gonna be on the council
But I
next
will be
year.
your mayor. I
You won't
guarantee you
be.
that.
No.
I guarantee you that much.
No.
I will be your mayor and you gonna call
I
me the
don't
minister mayor. Let's check that out, brother. Cause your mayor, you're sitting there, see one win. I'm out here fighting hard.
You
Y'all-
were arrested and probably
It's
gonna get
probably-
arrested
yeah.
many more
Guess what?
times.
Guess
for
what?
Stealing
That's what
from
you
the
say about
people
black
of
men
this
anyway.
community.
That's what you say about black men
Stealing from
anyway.
this community.
Whatever, stealing. Whatever.
You
I
stole water and were
Show-
convicted by a
Show
court.
me where
It was
that
in a-
is.
I got a
It-
paper at home. I'll get it. I'll bring it.
You know what?
I'll put
You
it
know
on the Facebook if you want.
Okay, that's fine.
But you were
Okay.
That's
convicted.
fine.
You're a
But guess what?
convicted person
Guess what?
of
But the
this city
citizens
and you
of
want to be
Helena-West-
mayor.
I would
the citizens
suspend
of Helena-West
Come on.
have
How
made
about we
me
adjourn,
under-
Mr. Mayor? This mouth over here is
Miss-
going too far.
Miss,
Yeah, that's what you pulled.
Please, please.
Running the zoo.
Please.
The reason why Helena failed when it was Helena, that's why they had to consolidate the cities because.
Please.
The second,
There's a motion.
No, let's go,
No, there's
let's
a,
go.
it's a preferred motion.
let's go.
Mr. St. Columbia moved adjournment. And there's a second, no, it's preferred, Ms. Crockett, please,
Talk long as you want
please
to. But then when
recognize,
somebody else start talking, you talk.
there's a
like you
motion to
run me.
adjourn and a
People,
second
y'all
on
better
the
wake
floor.
up and get out and
If
vote.
there's no discussion, meeting adjourned. Thank you.